in a group, as I said, ID must be the one I aggregate on. So if I said, ooh, let's call this, you know, house, or something, anything, really. No, can't do that. Not allow it. Okay? So average, I could define, no problem. House, no, it's saying something's wrong here. I don't have an object, I'm blah, blah, blah. I'm freaking out.
So underscore is always what you group by.
Always required, always what I group by.
If you have, I think you said you may cover it, but if you have, you wanted to aggregate on different field, is that possible?
Well, what different than what?
Like say you have a table.
Let's me just go through more examples, and then if I still haven't covered it, ask me that question, because there are many. We can go for weeks with all kinds of how do I query this, that, the other. Let me show you the basics and see if it makes sense, because I think I cover some of the basic ones. In this case, I said, well, I don't want just the average, I want the total and the average. So I just added a total field, right? I said, okay, in the output document, which is between those two yellows, right? Between here and there, I have my document. It has an ID, must have. It's a group. It has an average. Well, we've seen that before. And oh, let's add another one. It's happy.
Question.
Into the same stage, it will do two operators. It will do an averaging and an aggregation in the same step, saying, I want those numbers up. And of course, as expected, average, sum, score, max, min are all operators that are available. Yes?
So ADG and DTL are any random names that you choose as a developer?
Yes. So if I wanted to call TTL, I wanted to call it total recall, I could do that. Yes. Yep. Arbitrary.
Can you group by house and color?
Yes.
Or house and score?
I could, however, I'm aggregating on score, so how's that going to work? So keep that question, and we have one. You're asking, what if I want to group on a compound of several fields? The answer is, yes, you can. We'll see that in a second. It's in one of the demos. And finally, I say, well, that's all nice, but how about this window is bigger than there he is. Yeah. So I'll run this and I'll show you the syntax. What I did here is I said, well, I know the average and the total, but I want to know in this group, what are the teams in there? And lo and behold, I'm getting a non-flat record. There's an operator called add to set. Well, that's useful on a website, right? Not only do I know the house, I also get the names of those teams that participated in producing that. Kind of nice for debugging. How did you get to 58? That's impossible. Well, I used the teal and the jade and the silver, and I did the thing. And go check your math.
That's very cool.
That's nice.
That's very cool.
Yeah? So that's called add to set. And it's the or the counter to the unwind operation. You can add to set. You can also project it out, but yeah.
I'm going to see a little bit.
I'm sorry. So the syntax of add to set is teams use the add to set operator and add to set their ID and call it teams.
How much data can you add to those sets? How many fields? I mean, is there a limited number of fields that you can add?
Only limited by the limits of JavaScript or 16 megs with total. So there is a limitation to the aggregation framework, which is the output of which may not exceed 16 megabytes, which should ring a bell. That's also the size of the maximum BSON document currently. Used to be 4 by November last year, and now it's 16, and maybe it'll grow more, but at this point, this is where it is. Definitely, if they figure out how to do a save at the end, they can rescind or asterisk that to give you more status. And that's the output, right? You can Splunk terabytes of information. The output must be no larger than that, because the output here, it's really the size of this stuff in BSON, sorry. This is the limit. This stuff may not be a BSON document larger than 16 megabytes. Okay, so that was nice. Let's see, so we can reset, we did, let's add some customers and show what that is. So here are some customers. I have a CRM system. I put my customers in there. So one thing I might be interested in knowing is, you know, I can filter by their gender or figure out a particular name and do some aggregation. They came in through various channels. Some acquired via phone, email. They have different touch points. So that's in an array, right? Each one is tagged by how do they touch us? How do we touch them, really? So that reeks of unwind, right? We want to maybe say, I want to aggregate, I want to figure out what channels bring me people, which channel brings me the most people, which one should I invest in, right? Make sense? So one thing I might want to do.
Obviously, fax is the way to go. I mean, that's just the future right there.
It is. It is. Because the resolution of faxes is so darn awesome. So let's see in operation here. I just want to see their gender, see what's going on. Yeah? Now, in here, I can't just say my ID will be the channel because it's an array. So what would I have to do? First, I'll need to unwind that, and then I can count that. Yeah? So first, let's unwind that. And when I unwind it, each record in the output has the original record as it was, but in this case, in here, the channel is no longer an array. It's a first-class memory. Well, now that I exploded them, I can aggregate them.
And then for the ones where it has multiple values in the channel, it gets split into two separate, or the ID gets listed twice.
Correct. So the question, I think, is, well, if I exploded them and somebody participated via two channels, I'll get two records. So if I counted Bob twice because he was touched in two different ways. And that is correct. But what am I aggregating on or for? Or what's my intent here? My intent is that my ID is the channel.
Right.
So I'm counting the channels, not the records they relate to. I wanted to do that. Oh, add to set. Figure out who's in there. Intersect it back, sure, project and do. But yes, that's exactly it. And congratulations, folks. This is the first time we've used multiple steps in the pipeline. We matched first to do some filtering, and then we did aggregation. We didn't say, give me everything. I'm sorry, we did. We said, it's not a match, it's a unwind. But this is the pipeline. So I can add more arguments, more operators, more stages into the pipeline as I want. Yeah? So this is what the syntax looks like. You say aggregate, you give it a step, a step, a step, a step. That's it. No more. Yeah? And in here, what am I doing? I'm still unwinding the channels. I'm aggregating the channels. But this time there's special, let me show this up high. So I'm unwinding, yeah, we did that, and I'm grouping, and this time this ID is not a single field. I'm blocking two fields. Yes, sir. I'm blocking two fields and making a composite key for my aggregation. Yes, it's allowed. And in this case, it's a composite key that will be collected at once. You can also conceive of multiple steps where you aggregate on the year and spit out the document, and then you aggregate on the thing, and then you accumulate some. So you can structure it however.
Just out of curiosity, what's probably the biggest aggregate function you've ever written?
This was out in August, and quite frankly, my production has not been upgraded to 2.2 yet. So, are you asking gnarly in terms of how many
Yeah.
or how complex it is?
Well, how complex, how many operations you perform?
I don't anticipate having more than 2 or 3 in my production for regular stuff. Because if I did, I'd probably end up writing I/O out that has those pre-aggregated. Why do I want to take the hit on transforming everything in memory all the time? Yeah. It should be cheap to write and cheap to read. So this is it. And now each document on the output has an ID that is a composite of the channel and the gender. So now I'm counting channel gender entries, not just channel. Make sense?
Yeah.
I see the statistics people drew in mind.
Yeah, with these statistically insignificant numbers, I'm sure my company is going to make tens of pennies a year. Each one bought $1 million watch, so don't be so critical. Okay. All right, for the next exercise, let's reset, add customers, and then add orders, order history, db.crm.find1. And let's see what our record looks like. So our CRM started was just like what people had, and then they started actually spending money with us. So now they have order history. Each one of them we also added to the document some order history. So that presents some document complexity beyond the channels. And we have a complex object with potentially more complex objects in there. Can we do that? The answer is yes, we can. So the first question I want to ask is, well, if you unwind the order history to get documents, each one with just a person and a single order event, can I then do some transform to it and then sort it by who paid the most, and then just get me the last 3? Okay, so that's complex. I'll run this and then I'll unwind myself, and you'll ask, what's this P2 in the middle? P2 is a project. I just didn't want to type it so long. So here's a project usage. Project takes a document that came in and spits out a document. In our case, I wanted to say, well, from each thing that comes in, which is an instance of the customer with a single order, I want to just get a field called paid, which from the order history field it's how much they paid. So let's stare again at our document. Each customer has an order history array of things. So I'm going to be looking at a document that looks like everything above OH plus one of these. So I'm going to have, for this guy, I'm going to have two, right? The document plus this one, or the document plus that one after I unwind them. And then I want to reach into OH dot PD, or OH dot PD. I want to plug that number in. Let's scroll up. And so I unwound the order history. I applied a projection that will end up as a document with a paid on it. And then I sorted them. I want the biggest hitters because I want to hit them again. They have money to spend. And just show me the last three because I don't want to call everybody. Hit it. And what are those IDs? Those IDs are the original IDs that just transferred through, but it's not the same document anymore, so be careful. Right? Because after I just unwound, each document contains the original ID of the original document. Non-distinct anymore, but they are original nonetheless. Yes?
I'm lost as to what project is. Can you
Okay, so
explain
can we
again?
see here that this structure contains an order history, and in the order history there's another document contains a page. So the natural way Mongo would represent this, if I just said give me the OH.PD, it will say, oh, I have a field called OH.PD. But I don't want that. I want a document that says paid, number. You use a project, you pluck this one out with a syntax of project, which is project, right? I say, create me a field called paid from the deep path into the document.
Okay. So it's just purely a convenience?
It is, but it also allows you to shape the document so it's possible to aggregate in further steps.
So if you had multiple projections, you could then use those multiple projections to shape your new
Correct.
document.
And this is not limited to, sorry, it's not limited to one projection at a time, right? My projection expression, P2, let me scrunch it this way so it goes up higher. You know, P3, here's another projection. I have a projection expression that takes the order month and makes a document that contains in it a month that is taken from the order history date. And I also pull out a paid, which is the paid. So I'm creating a combined item. This is an example of outputting a reshaped document that fits something. And here, I only take the bare number, but I can also transform that number. I can say, give me just the day of month of the date or things like that.
What's the general convention as far as when to use $signs versus NAT when it comes to NAT keywords of MongoDB? Like in that case, you have month.
I gotta say
OH.
that is a little bit unintuitive to me. You've seen on the first one that I said match,
Right.
and the match field was named bare.
Yeah.
Whereas when you need to reach into the document, you need the $sign
Sure.
on the right-hand side. But then there's instances where there's dollars on the left-hand side. So in general, dollars on the left-hand side represent pipeline operator, and dollars on the right-hand side represent pluck or do something to a document field. But I was hoping for more clarity. It is documented, Like each operator in the documentation on 10gen has the exact syntax for it, but I don't see the thread of logic going throughout. Okay. Where was we? Did we do this? Yes.
Just did the E2.
Yep. This is, yeah. So in this case, I said, unwind me the channels. I'm still interested in this unwind to start everything off. And I said, create me a grouping on both the channel and the gender. So I want to know, well, do women use fax or do men use fax? Who the hell uses fax? And then I wanted to sum it up. And the convention for sum is that you, I'm sorry, I wanted to count it up. And the convention for count is you sum one. Why not? Do we need another operator? No, not really. It's the same. And if you wanted to sum 1/2, that's fine with me. Count half of it. Right? The sum on the left, to those are sticklers to data types, it takes any number. In the shell, unfortunately, looks at numbers in JavaScript and treats them as like floating point doubles. So sometimes that when you have exact matches, that tends to be a little funny, and there are equivalence operators also to do if then and null coalescing. If the field is null, do something or give me a stand-in 0 or something. You have to be careful because these numbers get translated to something that's a little tricky sometimes. So that's what we did here, and as a result, we already saw composite and we saw aggregation with a composite. Okay? So how are we doing? I think we're kind of done on time. Any burning questions?
You had mentioned earlier about, like, I think it was transforming the JSON into something about Python. I was wondering just
No,
how...
BSON to JavaScript.
Oh, okay. So JavaScript is pretty much built into MongoDB, and there's no way of using like a CGI type passing interface to maybe hand off the program to another language and get the data back. I'm sure if I looked more at how MongoDB works internally, I'd feel a bit clearer on this. But
So MongoDB daemon is a C++ compiled application, and it's open source. So if you wanted to change out the scripting engine, go for it. It's built on BSON, which is not JSON, and it's not JavaScript. It's just a serialization format that allows you to spread it in memory. All of their scripting operators are tied into the previously JavaScript slug, and currently the V8 engine, which is a little faster. However, anything you do in JavaScript is slower than the pure metal C++. Can you swap it out? Yeah, good luck, lots of work. But, yeah. And in terms of the shell, I work in the shell JavaScript, but typically you don't shell against it. You have a program written against it, and then you use your own language driver. You use, Ruby, Python, whatever, to compose these texts and ship them on the wire and get it back.
Are all these operators that you described and showed supported in the PHP driver?
I do not know the latest 2.2 driver as well. I know on the C# driver they made it in, but I don't know about the PHP driver. Certainly, if they didn't, all you do is db.run command, $aggregate, comma, and the rest of it. So you can always compose that text, right? Just like I'm doing via the shell. So anything that Tengen didn't give you out of box, you can mimic via run command. Run command is your gateway to doing anything that Mongo could do. Yes?
Can you use the MongoDB as a caching server?
You can and people do, not in the sense of caching for write, but caching for read in the sense that because it is a very fast reading, if your write, W-R-I-T speed, or your write frequency is kind of low, the amount of locking it takes on reads is tiny, and it performs almost as good, or it performs better just direct reads than doing read and then memcached and read from memcached.
Then how
So
do we,
people are using it as a common cache source.
then how do we replicate data from SQL to MongoDB?
You export it.
Export it.
Yeah. So you can write an SSIS job and use the MongoDB C# driver as a component into your SSIS and write the script to do it as a scripted set. Or you can dump out CSV, BCP, whatever, and import, Mongo import BCPs in. Various ways. Okay. So let's go to the last beautiful slide. I don't make any money, but go download it and play with it of MongoDB. 3.2.2 is awesome. It's faster, noticeably, and it has the aggregation framework improvements. If you have any questions, anything, the Google Groups are your friend. There's also an IRC, but I have stopped BBSing in about 1994, so I don't use that anymore. But people use it, so go for it. It's geeky, it's fun. And then I do some consulting and training. You can email me, and here's my contact information, or nuri@plusnconsulting.com, or you can contact me via the SoCal Code Camp website. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.